Buddhism was founded in India by Gautama Siddhartha in the 5th century BC. Originally, it was a teaching aimed at becoming an enlightened person or Buddha through meditation training. This teaching was introduced to Japan in the 6th century from Central Asia via China and the Korean peninsula. At first, there was some conflict and struggle between Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion, and Buddhism, which was brought from the continent. However, after that, the two coexisted and partially merged. As a result, the Japanese were able to inherit even the mentality of the German people before the full-scale start of agriculture. This is because Shinto is a religion that inherits the religious spirit of the German people. The characteristic of Japanese culture, which skillfully digests foreign culture and coexists and fuse with conventional culture, began around this time. In the Asuka period, Princess Shotoku was devoted to Buddhism and successfully incorporated it into politics. He endeavored to propagate Buddhism by establishing Horyuji Temple. The 17-article constitution he created advocated social harmony and expressed the fundamental spirit of Japanese as early as this era. In the following Nara period, Emperor Shomu became a deep believer in Buddhism and tried to rule the country with its power. Todaiji Temple, which houses Japan's largest Buddha statue, was built in the 8th century by him to pray for peace in the country. At the time Todaiji Temple was built, smallpox was prevalent and political instability continued. The great Buddha of Todaiji Temple in Nara City was built to pray for the restoration of peace and order. Nara City is also famous for its bright wild deer and is Japan's oldest capital near Kyoto. The Heian period began in the latter half of the 18th century with Kyoto as the capital. The period saw the rise of two prominent monks, Saicho and Kukai. Saicho traveled to Tang China to study Buddhism, and after returning to Japan, built Enryakuji Temple on Mount Hiei, located east of Kyoto. Enryakuji was a central temple during the Heian period and also played the role of a comprehensive Buddhist university. Later, in the Kamakura period, some young monks who studied at the temple embarked on a reform of Buddhism. When you visit Kyoto, I recommend that you also visit Enryakuji on Mount Hiei. Kukai, who was 7 years younger than Saicho, traveled to China in the same fleet as Saicho and studied mainly esoteric Buddhism. After returning to Japan, he founded a sect called Shingon Buddhism and founded Kongobuji Temple on Mount Koya in Wakayama Prefecture. Today, Koya-san has also become a very popular tourist spot. At the age of 42, he built a sacred sites or temples in various parts of Shikoku to protect people from misfortune. It is said that the Shikoku pilgrimage began when his disciples followed the path he walked along the sacred temples after his death. Today, the Shikoku pilgrimage is so popular not only with Japanese but also foreign tourists. At the end of the 12th century, power shifted from the nobility to the samurai. This period is called the Kamakura period. because the samurai set up the shogunate in Kamakura, which is close to modern Tokyo. Around this time, Zen Buddhism was introduced from China. Zen Buddhism, which aims to achieve enlightenment through rigorous meditation practice, suited the spirit of the samurai and spread among them. This spirit was passed down to the samurai of later generation and became one of the pillars of Japanese culture. Japanese culture is characterized by the influence of the spirit of Zen on a wide range of cultural areas. The influence of Zen extends not only to martial arts such as kendo and kyudo, but also to various arts such as the tea ceremony, flower arrangement, and calligraphy. The Kamakura period was a time when Buddhism developed in a unique way in Japan. Zen Buddhism spread mainly among the samurai and further influenced the practice of various arts of Japan. On the other hand, Pure Land Buddhism spread among farmers. Pure Land Buddhism is a branch of Mahayana Buddhism focused on achieving rebirth in a Buddha's Pure Land. Honen studied at Enrikuji Temple on Mount Hiei at first, but he became a religious reformer and founder of Japan's own Pure Land Buddhism called Jodoshu. Shinran inherited Honen's teachings and deepened them further. Both Honen and Shinran argued that all conscious efforts toward rebirth in Pure Land and achieving enlightenment were contrived and rooted in selfish ignorance. In addition, Shinran was deeply aware of human limitations, and he advocated absolute reliance on Tariki, or other power, the power of Amitabha made manifest in his primal vow, in order to attain liberation. Namely, salvation is not due to human efforts, but is due entirely to original vow of Amitabha. The teaching of Shinran were known as Shin Buddhism, or True Pure Land Buddhism, and Shin Buddhism is the most widely practiced branch of Buddhism in Japan today. At first glance, Shin Buddhism seems to be the opposite of Zen, which seeks to achieve enlightenment through rigorous self-training or jiriki. However, even in Zen practice, true liberation can be obtained by finally knowing one's own limits and surrendering oneself to a greater power. In fact, the two teachings are connected at the deepest level. The Kamakura period was followed by the Muromachi period and the Sengoku period. The Sengoku period was a chaotic time when influential samurai fought against each other for national unification. Around this time, the Shin Buddhism sect captured the heart of the people and grew into a large one, armed themselves, and caused upsprings in various places, fighting with samurai. It was Tokugawa Ieyasu, one of the Sengoku samurai, who calmed down the whole country after the chaos of the Sengoku period. He established the shogunate in Edo, or today's Tokyo, and Japan enjoyed a peaceful period for 260 years. This period is called the Edo period. The Edo shogunate forced all citizens to be Buddhists and to belong to some temple. Fearing Buddhist rebellion, he used Buddhism to control the country. As a result, Buddhism such as Shin Buddhism lost its vitality. During this long period of peace, samurai no longer needed to fight. For them, kendo or swordsmanship became more of a mental exercise, and its connection with Zen Buddhism became stronger. In the middle of the Edo period, a Zen master named Hakuin emerged and reformed the Rinzai sect of Zen Buddhism. Daisetsu Teitaro Suzuki, who lived from the Meiji to Showa eras, introduced Japanese Zen centered on Rinzai Zen to the world, and this became the basis for today's worldwide popularity of Zen. In this way, the Japanese inherited the spirit of the Jomon people who lived without full-fledged agriculture in the form of Shinto, allowing Shinto and Buddhism to coexist. Buddhism, along with Shinto, has been handed down to the present day, developing independently in line with the Japanese mentality. Both Buddhism and Shinto have historically been protected by 126 successive emperors.